So you've heard that you can buy stuff at yard sales for $1, sell it for $20, do this 100 times, and you have $2,000, right? Kind of. But can you actually make a full-time income selling on places like eBay and other reselling platforms? I personally tried it, so let me tell you what I learned. Hi, my name is Eileen. Welcome to Hustle and Slow, where I talk all about making money from home and building multiple streams of income. I am a self-employed mother of two, and I fully support my family as we RV full-time on my multiple streams of income that I have built over the last couple of years, and I love sharing all about that with you so that you can do the same thing. But before I was doing the full-time RV thing and supporting my family full-time, I actually started on eBay. So really eBay was the root of it all, and I did eventually go from part-time stay-at-home mom on eBay to doing eBay full-time. So I'm going to share my experiences and my thoughts with you. I do want to add a disclaimer that I no longer sell on eBay full-time because we live full-time in an RV. We don't have a lot of space, so I have kind of shifted my focus over to streams of income that I can do without having to have a lot of inventory. Once we're back in a house, I will probably start reselling more again, but as of now, I do want to say that I'm not currently reselling as any significant part of my income. I'm going to give you kind of a spoiler to this video, and that is that I think that for most people, eBay and reselling is a better part-time income than a full-time income. I'm not saying it's not doable, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't sell or resell full-time, but I'm saying for most people, it's going to be better part-time than full-time, and I will kind of go into that in this video. Before I get started, I want to thank today's sponsor, Vendoo. Vendoo is a cross-posting software. They allow you to cross-post items really quickly and seamlessly on places like eBay, POSHMARK, Mercari, and they recently added Facebook Marketplace as well, since a lot of resellers are starting to resell on there since they started allowing people to ship items and not just sell locally. When I'm reselling, Vendoo is a huge part of my business because it allows me to quickly post all of my items on several marketplaces, which increases its chance of selling. So it's a great way to boost your sales and not spend a ton of time cross-posting all of your items. If you want to give Vendoo a try, you can check out the link below in the description and you'll get 25% off your first month. All right, so now let's talk all about reselling full-time and what my recommendations are and what you need to know going into that or considering going full-time with reselling. First, I'm going to start off with the harsh truth. It sounds so exciting to just be able to thrift all day, list a couple things on eBay, ship them, and just make a living doing that. But you're not going to list 100, even 200 or 500 items and instantly start making a full-time income. It is hard work, especially if you're selling one-off items. So you're finding one thing, listing it, selling it, and you're doing that over and over and over thousands of times. It is a lot of work. It does give you lots of freedoms because you're working for yourself and you can kind of make your own schedule and do things your way, but it's not easy. And anyone who tells you that it's easy is, I don't know, lying, or they are just really lucky. It's not easy. It is doable, but I just want to give you that kind of like harsh truth that it is not a get-rich-quick scheme. You're not going to be a millionaire doing this most likely, and it is something that you can do full-time, but it is going to take a lot of hard work. It is a full-time job. Now, there are some really important questions that you need to ask yourself if you're going to try and go full-time. If you're already part-time selling, you have an idea of these things, but if you haven't jumped in at all and you're just looking into it to see if it's something that you can do full-time, then definitely pay attention to these questions. The first thing you need to ask yourself is what you consider full-time. I actually asked this in my Instagram stories, which you can see my answers right here. Most people said that $3,000 to $4,000 a month in profit would be considered full-time to them. Some people said $4,000 to $5,000, and it went up from there. For me, I think you would need to make between $4,000 and $5,000 minimum full-time, and it also just depends on your expenses, where you live, and what kind of financial responsibilities you have. And then you need to figure out how much you need to sell in order to make that much. And then you need to figure out how much you need to list in order to sell that much in order to make that much. So it is really something that you need to sit down, look at the numbers, and plan it out. You can't just look at your sales and say, oh, I'm making $10,000 a month. I did that $10,000 in sales. That's not how it works, and you need to consider all of your costs and everything else that's involved. So definitely consider all these questions, and we're going to talk about the math in a second. Some other things you want to consider is where you're going to store all of your items. Most likely you're going to have at least maybe 800 to 1,000 or more items stored at any given time. So if you have a garage, that's great, or if you want to get a storage unit. Most people aren't going to be able to sell full-time on eBay with like 1 or 2 bins of stuff or just filling their closet in their bedroom. You also want to consider how you want to spend your time. There's really 2 ways to go about this. Some people prefer to spend their time sourcing. I love to thrift shop and yard sales, so spending more time sourcing and buying higher profit items might be your method of reselling. Or for some people, they don't have as much time to source because they're either working during the day or they're with their kids during the day. That's how I started out. I was only able to source a couple of hours a week when my son was either being watched by grandma or his dad. And then the rest of the time I was spending listing. So I was buying things that were lower priced that I could find quickly, and then spending more time listing and shipping. So you need to figure out where you want to spend time. Do you want to spend time sourcing more higher priced items, or do you want to spend less time sourcing and grabbing more lower price items, but more time listing and shipping? And then of course, make sure you know how much you have to have in savings in order to kind of pad things in case you come to a month or a week or several months where you're not making enough to cover all of your bills. When you're reselling, there is a lot of like ebb and flow, and sometimes you're not making enough one month and then the next month your sales are great. So having the savings when you're self-employed and you're relying on sales is really important so that you can cover your bills and you don't go under because you didn't have enough money. Okay, so next you're gonna have to do the math and make a plan. And I know I'm gonna lose people here because math isn't fun for everybody, but you really do need to know your numbers, and you need to know how much you're making, what your sell-through rate is, and all those kinds of things. So let's jump into that. I actually have my iPad here, so I'm going to write it all down and I will show you what I'm doing as far as math because it's really visual and there's a lot of numbers involved. So I'll do that. Please don't jump into full-time reselling without having a plan. Know your numbers, make a plan, know how much you have to sell, how much you have to buy, all of that stuff before you jump into full-time reselling. I do want to add a disclaimer that these calculations are not perfect, so don't come at me for it, but it will get you started and it will give you an idea of how much you need to make, how much you need to sell, and all that stuff. So there are 3 really important things you need to know, or numbers that you need to know, and that's sell-through rate, which is the number of items. So for your monthly sell-through rate, it would be the number of items you sold that month divided by the number of items you have listed. So if you sold 100 out of 200 items, then your sell-through rate is 50%. If you sold 100 items and you have 1,000 items listed, your sell-through rate is 10%. You want to know your average sale price, which is the total sales, your total sales for the month. So if you made $1,000, you divide that by how many items you had. So if you did $1,000 in sales and you had 100 items, then your average sale price is $10. And of course you want to know your profit. So your revenue minus your cost divided by your revenue. If your revenue was $1,000 and your cost was $100, that leaves you with $900. And then you're going to divide that by that original $1,000, giving you a 90% profit. So a lot of people jump into this thinking, okay, I'll sell 200 items at $30 and that'll make $6,000, and that's a pretty good amount of money to live off of, so I'll be good as long as I sell 200 items for $30, right? But that is so far from the truth, and let's look at the math and I'll tell you exactly why. Okay, so we said we're going to sell 200 items at $30, and that is $6,000 a month. And that's right, you get $6,000 for that month. But how much is that costing you? How much are your cost of goods on those 200 items? So let's say 200 items, and you're buying those items at $5 each. So that's $1,000, right? So now we're at $5,000. That's still decent, right? But you need to consider other expenses like eBay fees. So eBay fees are generally 12.35%. So eBay fees, and that's off of the original $6,000 in sales. So that comes out to $741. So now we're at $4,251. Still not too bad, but are you driving around from store to store so you have to pay gas? Are you buying supplies to ship those items? So let's say we're doing $100 supplies, $200 in gas. Now we're at $3,951. And then we have to pay taxes. And if you Google it really quickly and you ask how much should I pay or how much should I save for taxes, it will tell you generally about 30 to 35% of your profit. So we're going to take this $3,951 and save 30%. And 30% of that is $1,185 for taxes, giving us a total of $2,765. So we had $6,000 in sales, and that turned into $2,765. It's a lot different than that $6,000, right? So most people probably aren't going to live off of $2,700 unless you live somewhere really inexpensive and you don't have a lot of expenses. So you need to figure out these numbers for yourself and kind of come up with how much you need to sell in order to make the profit that you want to make. So let's do that math now. All right, so we made $2,765 out of $6,000, right? And that comes out to about 46%. So about 46% profit. But you didn't consider any other expenses like returns or the cost of items that didn't sell that you need to kind of absorb into your business. So I usually say that my profit is about 40%. It goes up and down a little bit from there, but 40% is pretty safe for my business. And this was 46%, so it seems like that would be a decent number. But always figure out your numbers as well. So we're gonna say 40%. Now you can use this 40% to figure out how much you want to make, how much you need to list and sell each month based on how much you want to make. So let's say you want to make $5,000. If you want to make $5,000 in profit, how much do you need to make in sales? Right? Now we're gonna go, I don't know if there's an easier way to do this. For some people, it might be easier to just like throw out numbers and do the calculation, figuring out 40% of a number. So if like $10,000 in sales is $4,000 in profit. So that's almost there, but you can also do some math from high school, which is what I usually end up doing. And that is, we're going to do $5,000 in profit. We're gonna put that over X because we don't know how much we need to make to get that $5,000. And then we're gonna equal, we know that 5,000 is 40%, and then that goes over 100%. I know, it's math. So we're gonna do that. So we're gonna cross, we're gonna do divided by 40, and it equals $12,500. So you would need to make $12,500 and make 40% profit in order to get that $5,000 in profit. Hopefully I didn't lose you there, but that's an easy way to do it. Or that's maybe not an easy way. It just depends on if you remember this from math. But otherwise you can do like $10,000, 40% profit, and figure that out and just keep upping the number until you get to the profit amount you need. That might be easier for you if you don't like math. Now we need to look at $12,500, right? $12,500 in sales per month. And we're saying that our average sale price is $30. So we're going to divide that by 30. And we're going to get 416 items that we need to sell each month. Now, that's a lot of items. And if your sell-through rate is 50%, you generally need to have double this listed in your store. If your sell-through rate is like 1/3 or 33% or 30%, you're gonna have to have like 1,200 items listed in your store. So it's all gonna depend on the math. You're gonna have to figure it out. And I don't wanna keep talking about the math, but I did wanna do that really quick for you so you could kind of see me fleshing it out for you. So in the end, here is my experience. At the beginning, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was sourcing maybe once or twice a week for a couple of hours, grabbing anything I could make a profit on, and then spending my son's naps and his bedtime listing on eBay. So I just had more time to list and ship than I had to source because I had to be home with him, and taking a 1-2-year-old to the thrift store and spending hours there was just not realistic for me. So you need to figure out what is realistic for you and what kind of lifestyle or what will fit into your lifestyle or what you can fit your lifestyle around. And then as I went more full-time, I was able to spend more time sourcing, so I was a little bit more picky about what I wanted to buy. But the catch was that once I was full-time, I had to buy stuff. I had to buy stuff because I had to keep my store going, I had to keep things active, and I had to keep listing. So if I had a week where I was hardly finding anything, I was still buying that cheap stuff because I still needed my store to be active. So this is why I personally prefer reselling as a part-time income it can totally be a full-time income, and there are some tips that I'll share with you in a second if you do want to do it full-time. But the reason I like it as a part-time income is because when you're doing it part-time and it's not your full income and you're not completely relying on it, I'm personally less likely to make bad buys if I'm not completely relying on it. When I was trying to support my family on it, I was out there every single day trying to find items to sell for the amount of profit that I wanted. And if I couldn't find anything for a couple of days, I just started buying stuff that was lower profit, that was going to, in the end, make me a lot less money for my time. And it was just a lot of pressure in that sense. But when you're doing it part-time, there's not as much pressure to make all those numbers that you would have to do if this is your full-time income and this is what you're relying on to pay all of your bills. So in the end, when I was doing it part-time, it was A, more enjoyable, and B, more profitable based on the amount of work that I was putting in. When I was doing it full-time, I was probably making less money per hour because I was having to work harder and work more to try and find more items. Whereas when I was doing it part-time, I was able to be a little bit more picky because I wasn't relying on it to pay every single bill. So for me, I don't think I'll ever go full-time reselling again, but I can definitely see myself part-time reselling again in the future when we have a house and we have storage to make an extra $1,000 or $2,000 a month because it's something that I enjoy and I think it is a good side income. But like I said, I don't want to discourage anyone from going full-time. Just make sure you have a plan in place, you have savings, and you know your numbers and you know how to grow your business. Now, here are my tips for going full-time. The first tip I'm going to give you is something that I recommend all the time, and is to read the book Profit First. Some people don't like this book, but this book changed my business, and it just kind of shows you how to allocate all of your funds so that you can make sure that you're operating under a good budget and able to pay yourself as well. I won't get too far into it, but definitely I'll link to it down below. Go read that book. It's super important if you're an entrepreneur, and it really changed the way I run my business and how much money I paid myself. I was able to pay myself more after reading that and kind of implementing some of the strategies in there. The second thing I want to recommend is to diversify. Don't just put everything on eBay and rely on eBay. One day you could get kicked off of eBay and then your income is gone and you have to start something else. So I really recommend cross-posting. Again, shout out to today's sponsor, Vendoo, which will allow you to cross-post your items across multiple marketplaces so that you can have your items in front of more people. This will increase your sales and also protect you if for some reason your eBay or your Poshmark or your Mercari account gets shut down. You have other platforms to rely on. And the last one is to always know your numbers, look at your numbers, do these calculations regularly, and make sure that you're making a profit. In my course, the Reseller Roadmap, where I teach beginning resellers to start, scale, and streamline their business, I have them go through their numbers, and a lot of people are shocked to find out that they're making less than minimum wage when they do those calculations. So make sure you know your numbers, make sure you're making a profit, and use those numbers to improve your business. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you if you're considering taking the jump into full-time reselling. I did it for about a year, maybe 2 years, before I started diversifying in other ways because it was just a little bit too much for me to do full-time as my only source of income. I'm all about diversifying your income streams and having multiple streams of income, and that is how I feel protected as an entrepreneur that pays all my bills and supports my family full-time on my self-employed income, because if one stream disappears, I have several others that are there to support me. Like I said, it's not impossible to resell full-time. A lot of people do it with a lot of success, but it's definitely not easy, and if anybody tells you that it's easy, they are totally wrong. It is a lot of work, but it is a great way to make income from home. So hopefully this helped you out. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and make sure you hit that subscribe button down below if you want to hear all about reselling, making money from home, and building multiple streams of income. I will see you next time. Bye.